Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and I've got Adam Peltier with me. Adam is in my home. We're in the guest room.
I wasn't invited, but I'm in his home.
No, you pet the rabbit, so you are totally that you were invited by the rabbit.
And that sounds like something else.
It does sound like pet the rabbit. Adam is here because his film Space Junk was at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival just about a year ago, 2022. And I'm going to name your awards. You got the Grand Jury Award for Best Short Film Arthouse Experimental.
Woo, I will.
But then you also won 2 awards from the Filmmakers Board. The Filmmakers Board gives away the Filmmakers Awards, and that board is filled with people who had films in the festival previous years. So it's an award from your peers, which I think means more in a way.
It does.
And they gave you Outstanding Screenplay Arthouse Experimental.
Boom.
And Outstanding Performance by a Cast.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Isn't that a rad award? I'm so glad we do the full cast award.
I love that because I do think I am biased, but the cast in Space Junk crushed it.
It's just a really creative film. It's what's, I don't know, avant-garde. I never know what to call it.
No,
but it's an art film. It's
100%.
You totally push the boundaries, and so it must be so an award like that means a lot because it means that like everyone on your team got it. You're also, you probably, I could name, writer, director, producer, and all that, but I'm sure you wore even more hats. I mean, when you make an indie short, the number of, it's always funny. I know most filmmakers are like, I don't want to list everything I did because at that point you seem petty.
Yeah. No, you seem like a crazy person, but it's funny because for Space Junk, I didn't list everything that I did.
In fact, you didn't list yourself as producer now, I see.
Yeah.
Meyer Hamden.
Yes, that's right. Yes, yeah. That was a friend of mine.
But you probably did a lot of producer jobs and just said, but I'm not putting my name there.
Yeah, no, I just didn't seem like I don't know. I was like, it just seemed like it just made more sense to do it the way we did it. But this other film I have, me and my friends, we listed every job that we did because we were so proud of ourselves, and we thought it was really funny to see the guy that played this character was also the makeup artist and was also this, and because that's what you do with these indie films. You do everything. Everyone does everything.
You either gotta go so far that it's fun, or just do it respectable. Yeah, I do have an amusing theory that I shouldn't share publicly, but I'm about to, which is that when I'm watching screeners for the festival, if it starts off with I'll steal from Steve Martin, a Gern Blanston production of a film by Gern Blanston, written and directed by Gern Blanston, and then the title, if you see that writer director's name 3 to 4 times before the film title, it's going to be a piece of shit.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
At least come up with a production company name other than Gern Blanston Productions.
Yeah, come up with something creative, Big Duck Pictures. You know what I mean?
Big Duck Pictures, which works. I'm a big fan of the ducks.
Yeah, we like ducks. Ducks are cool. Ducks are fun. And when you're putting it into your socials, it could be mistaken for something else if there's a typo involved, so then it could lead you down an inappropriate rabbit hole. Oh
my God. I didn't even think about the big fuck possibility.
Yeah.
By the way, cursing is completely encouraged.
Oh, good. Well, I was even thinking big dick, because then it gets you, kind of big fuck, right. Big dick. It could send you down bring up the wrong Google images, or the right ones, depending on what you're looking for.
I like it a lot. All right, well, congratulations on a great film.
Thank you so much.
We will talk about your next film because I've seen it. Because
that's right. And you hate it.
It was. I did that thing where I was like, fuck, another good one. I'm going to send him an email because I just felt like it, and I think I knew we were going to record this.
Yeah, I think you were like, hey, by the way, that movie was good. Also, I need you to come over to my house to pet the rabbit. And
it is if only I had a big duck for you to pet.
If only. Ducks love me.
I should have named the rabbit Duck instead of Winston, because then it'd be like, you want to pet the duck?
That would be actually really, it'd be funny and confusing.
His name should be The Duck.
The Duck.
I might start calling him The Duck.
He's duck-like.
He is in every way. All right, so how can people see Space Junk, which we're going to talk about a lot when we get to it, but you're going to give your life story first. But
of course,
it is going to be on TVHi.
Yes.
We're going to get that done. We're
signing the deal. We're signing the papers. This is the meeting right here.
So if people go to watchtvhi.com or And of course, I am responsible for TVHi, so
Yep.
I have an in there. I know a guy.
You know a guy.
I know a guy.
He's not a great guy, but you know a guy.
If you know how to deal with him, you can get what you need. But and TVHi is a streaming platform. It's a smart TV app on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, Apple TV, Android mobile, and iPhone mobile. And if you watch movies on your phone, you're a lot younger than I am because I can't even handle the idea.
Yeah. And you're watching movies the right way on your phone.
I have seen our almost 16-year-old sitting on the couch in front of a 65-inch screen watching YouTube on her phone, and I'm like, or Netflix, and I'm like, that's bigger is better. She's like, no, I like it better on my phone. I'm like,
Okay.
and then I turn into grandpa. At that
Yeah,
point, I go
yeah.
from like, I become just
like
a dinosaur going,
Yeah.
it shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Gotta respect the form.
You become the guy that's like, get off my lawn type of dude. And it just comes out because you're...
Plus the quality of the speakers.
I know.
I
You've
know.
been
It
missing
breaks my
something.
heart. It breaks my heart. So please watch Space Junk. You can check it out on TVHi on any of those platforms, TVHi, or if you just go to watchtvhi.com. By the way, streaming service, if you use the code STREAM420,
Boom.
by the way, TVHi is sort of meant to, it's just great indie films. Mm-hmm. But if you enjoy cannabis, they're even better with such assistance.
And really needed to get through my movie.
And if cannabis, no, you don't. I still haven't seen Space Junk Stone, but I'm looking forward to it.
Good.
Because I have a feeling maybe I'll understand it better than ever.
Yeah.
Although I think I do understand it.
I think you do. After watching it 30 times, you're like, it kind of makes sense now.
At the theater, that's one of the great things about the film festival is I see the films as a member of the jury, selection jury, but then I get to watch it in a theater with an audience and then talk about it afterwards. So it's, I get that second viewing in and you really pick up more.
Totally. And it's always fun to watch it with an audience, too, because some things might be funnier or more dramatic or whatever because the audience's vibe and everything.
One of the reasons why our festivals, the awards are announced a week or two after the festival instead of at the festival is I, for one, will not submit my ballot until I've seen them at the theater with an audience.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
Yeah.
I support this. Continue doing this.
I mean, obviously, people love the fact that, like, maybe at the closing ceremony, they hand out trophies then and there, like, in person. But
People, yeah.
fuck that. Everyone deserves... I personally, I don't want to decide which film is who I'm going to vote for until...
You need to see with the audience, and then the awards things, yeah.
And
I'm
bigger, a bigger screen...
Helps. Can help.
If you're going to decide cinematography based on watching it on a 65-inch TV... versus, 65-inch TV is pretty good these days.
That's good, yeah. But it helps to see it on something bigger. You can appreciate it more. If it's down to, 2 or 3 films.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean...
Although, yeah, we're cool. But anyway,
too,
so that's the deal with Space Junk. People can watch it there. And we're also going to throw it on Discover Indie Film, the TV series that is...
There it is.
Short films handpicked from the festival circuit.
This is breaking news right now.
All this we're
breaking news.
We're at like 10 minutes and we haven't even gotten to your first question.
Who cares about me? We just know where they can watch the movie.
Well, a lot of people care about you. I think that's...
My mother, my father, they'll listen to this.
Will they listen to this? Should we not curse?
No, we can.
Or should we? I promise not to say any of the horrible. We were trading unrepeatable jokes before we started recording.
Very, very much so. And thank God we weren't recording.
But I hope he's okay. So, first question and only question is: so I've seen 2 films that you've written and directed and starred in, and so you clearly and you're doing great work. So
I clearly have an ego, is what you're about to say.
No.
Tip of your tongue.
No, just where'd it come from? Because it's like, did you get into acting first? Did you get into film first? Were you inspired as a kid? Were you an artsy kid? Were you a writer? Like what? How did you I always say the hardest fucking thing in the world is being an indie filmmaker because it really is Sisyphean. I mean, it's just like, I'm going to pour my heart into something and I'm really doing it for the love of the game. I'm doing it for the love of the art because, you certainly can't turn to your your spouse or your parents or anyone in your life, even your best friends, and go, I'm making an artistic short film, and I have a hunch I'm going to be able to buy a house when I'm done. Like,
I wish that was the case.
Like,
but
nobody ever,
case.
like, you know.
If anything, it's like, you know that house we were saving for? We're going to have to wait a little bit longer because I'm going to be taking some of that.
Fraction of the down payment. We're gonna have to work an extra 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's tough. So what got you into the, when did you fall in love with it?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of a weird journey for me because I wasn't one of those kids that grew up doing like performing arts, theater, any of that kind of stuff. Movie, like I wasn't doing any of that. I mean, I grew up in small town, Ohio, kind of like we were talking a little bit before. And the only thing we really had there, I mean, it's a very, very, very small farm town, Southern Ohio. And we had like, you know, a movie theater. And so from a young age, I mean, I was obsessed with just like watching movies. And I remember like some of the earliest memories like my parents have of me as a child, I guess, would be like I was obsessed with like 101 Dalmatians, and like when I could get up and sort of walk, I could work the VCR. And so when it was, because it was a VHS tape dealio, so when the movie would be done, they'd put it on, they'd leave me in the room, or they'd be nearby. They were good parents, so whatever a good parent does with when the child at a certain age, they did.
You were watching a G-rated film. So that's
yeah. So it's all good. And so like I'd sit there in my diaper with like a bottle, and then when the movie was done, I'd just get up, waddle up, press rewind, and I would watch, because then you could watch the movie rewind really, really fast, like back then, and which I loved. And then I just press play, walk back, and plop my butt down and watch this movie on like repeat. So there was like already a fascination with movies. And then again, yeah, when I got older, my sisters were really into theater and like performing arts and all that. And I think I was kind of shy and a little nervous about performing in front of people. But my favorite thing to do was to go to the movies. We had a really small movie theater, and my parents would take me to, you know, rated R films at a young age. I remember like seeing like, you know, they would take me to see like, I saw like a long time ago, like Gladiator and like Saving Private Ryan, these movies that like, I guess, I don't know why my parents took me to see these, probably because they wanted to see it and they couldn't find a babysitter.
Get a sitter, yeah.
And they were like, hey, you're mature enough. You're going to be fine. And they would
no kid was ever broken by a film.
No, I don't think so.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they would close my eyes at certain things and stuff. And so we'd go see these big blockbusters, and it was so fun. And then even as I got older, again, I would go to the movie theaters instead of like going out and like, you know, partying and stuff like in high school, because there's not a lot to do in like a small farm town. I'd go to the movies by myself and just see tons and tons of films. So that was like my fascination, but it seems so out of reach, man, to make movies. Like, I don't think I like was I understand the concept of like how to make a movie, because I would buy so many DVDs and Blu-rays at this point, and then like watch all like that. At a certain point, like early 2000s, it was like special features were incredible.
Yeah, the DVD extras it's another thing we lost with streaming, because now you have to hunt down those extras.
Yeah, there was some like just incredible like making of like behind the scenes, and you really understood. I remember like, you know, like seeing like, this is going to sound so insane, but like I was like a big Rob Zombie fan at a certain time, and I do think he's like an incredible director, even though he's got misses. You might not like the vibe or whatever, but he had, for like The Devil's Rejects, he had like this incredible behind the scenes. It's like an hour and a half documentary of like how they went about making this film. So like I was obsessed with all that stuff. So I kind of understood the concept, but it seemed so far out of reach to do. And at that time, so I didn't know what I really wanted to do. And I ended up I got into United States Military Academy, West Point. So
wow,
got into West Point.
That's a wow. But by the way, I'm gonna I want to interrupt.
Please do.
And ask a Mark Maron style question.
There we go. Please.
A Maronism. No, because you mentioned your sisters. What about birth order?
Oh, I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so they were kind of leading the way, and you were.
Yeah, and when they would do like show choir and stuff, and I don't know, I felt like so shy to like get up, and I couldn't sing, I couldn't dance, and And my school didn't do like plays. It was a very small school. There was like 60 people in like my graduating class, maybe less. And so like they would do like musicals, and so like there was just never even an in for me, and there was no film like club or anything.
Right, and there weren't like video cameras laying around the house to pick up and play with.
Yeah, no, because my parents, incredible parents, but they weren't like artsy. Like, my dad was like, they're both blue collar, people. Like my dad was a firefighter and a paramedic, and my mom would like, she was a stay-at-home mom, and then she would like clean houses and stuff. Like, so like very much like no arts, but they were like encouraging of whatever anyone wanted to do, and my sisters kind of gravitated towards that. More so than me. I think it just goes back to this being so shy, right? Like I was outgoing, but when it came to performing, I felt like, I don't know, I was just like so nervous. So yeah, there just wasn't that thing. And then being the baby and seeing them and my sisters like do a really good job at singing and dancing, I was just like, I don't know if I can do that. And so yeah, so like, and then when you're in Ohio too, it's like, and not ragging on Ohio, but like it was so like the options were so in my small world, right? The military made the most sense, but I happened to be, I'll toot my own horn, kind of smart, like as far as studies go. So I was able to get in, again, West Point, right? But I had to go to prep.
That's prestigious.
It's a big deal.
No, yeah, you gotta have a good ACT score. Or whatever.
You gotta be a little bit of a brain.
You can't be a schlub. Yeah. It's not enlisting.
Yeah, it's not enlisting, right? You have the brain, you have the brawn, you have to be an athlete as well. So it was like kind of a big deal. And I knew that's like, at the time, that's what I wanted to do. And I'm like, this makes the most sense. But before I could go, because each state only takes like a couple, they take like maybe, depending on your population or whatever, or the districts, how it works out, right? They take maybe like 1 or 2 people per state.
That's right. Do you even need like some local congressman to write a letter?
Yeah, so I had to get my congressman's approval. So that's a whole crazy thing. You go through all these interviews.
How dumb and antiquated is that? The idea that our congressmen have any clue, like what gems there are in their town. Like, no way. They don't know anyone who votes for them anymore.
I mean, there's like no way. I mean, but here's the thing, and it's insane because you're a kid, and I have like no kind of concept of like a lot of things at this time, and you have to go in for like an interview with this person, but they have like a team of like lawyers and stuff, and they're asking all these questions and stuff, and like it's an insane experience. And then you get to meet the person, and like the congressperson I had was John Boehner, and he was Speaker of the House at the time. Yeah. Which is kind of wild.
You were from Boehner's district.
Yeah, man.
Shit.
He's crying all the time.
Did he have a scotch? Did he have a scotch while he talked to you?
He did not have a scotch, but he was very, very tan. He had that. He's known for his tan. Beautiful, beautiful tan. And didn't get emotional with me, which is another thing. People are like, wow, this is a John Boehner podcast.
No, but Boehner has this bizarre place in our culture now as like the kind of Republican we miss.
Yeah.
Like a guy who would do deals. He'd get drunk with the other side. He fucking, he was a hard ass.
Yeah.
But he believed in it, and he got shit done.
I think so. Right? Or I guess he did.
And he had the best last name ever.
Yeah. Boehner, not to be mistaken with anything else other than Boner.
Boehner. Boehner. Yeah.
Yeah. Insane. But he was interesting.
He probably wanted to sponsor you just because your last name is Peltier, so Boehner Peltier.
Yeah, it just felt right,
Oh, you should have. If only you'd married his daughter and made Boehner Peltier. That's not a bad.
There's still time. What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Come on, what's happening here? But he was an interesting guy, and I met him twice. And then but before, so here's the thing though with this, they'll sometimes have like a lot of exceptional people they want to put forth to West Point. And just because you get nominated doesn't mean you get in, right? But there was a number of exceptional people in my district of Ohio, I guess. And so I had to wait. I got accepted, but I had to go to military prep school for a year. So like, hey, you'll get in, but you got to wait because of just the numbers.
Kind of like a gap year, and during that gap year, you went to like, whatever, the I went to pre-law, whatever. Pre-law for law school, pre-West Point.
If only. But pre-West Point for me was in Marion, Alabama. Marion Military Institute. Yeah.
Was that a culture shock?
Oh, yeah. It's insane. I mean, it was like...
Because Southern Ohio is not... I mean, that's almost...
I mean,
But
it's farm
different
town.
culturally,
It's different. It's definitely different culture, different vibe, and it was just interesting. I'd never really been. It was my first time kind of away from home too, and to go to Alabama, I went from a really really small town to an even smaller. I don't want to say weird, but just an odd environment because I hadn't been around the military really. You know what I mean? There was no. I guess there was an Air Force base near where I lived, but like it just wasn't a thing. So it was so odd being in this like really, really small town. And there's like, and Marion was like, there's, it's like historical. It's where the Civil Rights March started and stuff. So there's like history there, but it's just so small. It's a small little place. And this military school doesn't really interact with, at least my time there, we weren't like interacting with the community so much because it's like you're there for either, you're there because it's the college you chose, or you're there because you're one of these like West Point's Air Force Academy, Naval Academy prep students. And so you're there and like you're on campus nonstop. You have all these classes you have to take just to keep your grades up to make sure that you're up to snuff with West Point standards. You don't lose anything and you're
right. So there was a bit of pressure because even though you were already in, if you effed up, you'd lose your spot
100% and be like a waste of time. Because again, nothing against Marion Military Institute, but it's like that's not where I wanted to go to school. You know what I mean? It's actually, I will give them this. It seems like it's gotten better. Like it's actually like, so good for them. I think they have some good donors. So you have to keep up, you're doing like a lot of engineering classes, a lot of like, it's a pretty intense thing. And then you also have your military training on top of that. But it's funny. So when I'm down there, at this school, they do have a theater program.
Oddly enough, you go to this, but they've got obviously a bigger student population than you'd ever been in.
Yes, right? For sure. Still very small.
So that can support a theater program.
Yeah, 100%. And there's this theater program there, and it's ran by, this woman. Her name was Colonel in the, I believe the United States Army. I don't know. I'm pretty sure she was in there. There's naval guys there as well.
But it's Colonel in both? I think
if
I was knowledgeable
that
and
is
I'm
true.
not,
No, you're so right.
But I know there's different. There's like admirals and generals and blah blah blah. Like they have because it makes sense.
I didn't serve in the military.
Makes sense to have all this division.
You're so right. What am I thinking? I always like.
So she was a colonel. And she was surely Army.
Yeah. She was in the Army, and so she was running this program. And I remember, like at the time, West Pointers couldn't deviate from our classes, right? Because we had such a big workload. And I remember seeing a play. I don't know why I saw it because some people in the company were in it, and I was like, oh wow, this is really bad. I should just do this. Like I should audition because it's like, what's there to lose? Like,
so the quality was so low, there was no danger.
There's no danger. Yeah, I felt like I could maybe embarrass myself and no one will see it. So why not, right? And this time I was watching a lot of movies still again, just because Netflix was kind of becoming more of a thing. So still obsessed with like movies and stuff, but that seems so not doable. But acting in a play, maybe. And so I go and ask if I could go audition. They say no because of all the course load that we have. So I'm like, whatever, fuck it. I see where they have the notice for like when auditions are going to happen. And I learn a monologue, which I've never learned before. I don't even know what I learned. And I go and I audition for this. And I go out there, I do the monologue, I'm done. And Colonel Street's like, listen, honey, you're not, who are you? What are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm one of the West Point people. And like, she's like, oh God. Okay, well, you did really good. So I'm going to have to talk to somebody because, I want you to be the lead of this play. And I was like, what? This is crazy. Yeah. And so she talked to the guy that was in charge. I'm blanking on his name.
So her tone was about what she was going to have to go through to get you.
Yeah.
She was already saying to herself,
this guy's good.
Fuck, it's going to be worth it, but I got to deal with those assholes.
Yeah.
I got to deal with red tape.
Yeah. All the red tape.
To actually have a good play with a good lead.
Yeah. For the school. You know what I mean? Like at the time, I guess I was the best. She went through all the red tape. I was in it, and it was great. And after I do this performance, Commander Stevens, who's like chemistry, science guy, he comes up to me, and I'm like I I was like kind of struggling with, I mean, I got into West Point, but it was like some of the stuff I just wasn't into anymore. And I wasn't doing great in his class. I mean, I had an A, but like I could have been doing better. And that's like the military side of me coming out.
Right, like a 93% A is not as good as a 97% A.
What am I doing? And he comes up to me, he's like, you know what? You should do this. And I was like, whoa, that's awesome. I'm like, I don't know if that's a dig, meaning like I'm not good at this military thing, so I should do this. But it stuck with me. And it really, so I decided to go to West Point, though, to see that through. And I go there and I was miserable. I wanted to do that. I got the acting bug. I got bit by it at Marion Military Institute. I had a really miserable time at West Point. God,
yeah, they have no theater at all. They might have some sports.
Yeah, they have sports. They had a theater club, and I went to that. And the higher ranking, students, the upper classmen, they get all the parts and stuff for whatever reading you're doing. I was like, fuck this. This is so dumb. I'm like, I'm not wasting my time here. And then at this time too, man, it's like we're in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I'm like, I just became so, it's my again, another time. I haven't been away from my home that long. Like, I'm out in the world. I'm like forming these opinions, asking questions, and it just all felt wrong. Like being there at West Point, and like we're in Iraq and Afghanistan. That's where I was going to have to go after I was done at West Point. I'm like, I don't believe in what we're doing there. And I can't, there's no way I can, because when you graduate West Point, you become a second lieutenant.
Yeah, you become an officer and you.
Yeah. And I'm like, there's no way I can, in good faith, like do this, because I just so do not believe in what we're doing.
Right. The reality of it kicked in. Because also you'd have the gap year thing or the prep year. So by then you're 19, 20.
Yeah.
Which is a big difference between like 20, like those 2 years from 18 to 20 is still like 10% more life.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. And and you kind of have this, you start forming these opinions, asking questions, that maybe you didn't so much when you're like in the comfort of your home, your small town, right? It just all seemed kind of wrong for me, right? And so, I mean, like, long story short, I got honorably discharged from the United States Army. I was able to leave West Point early, and then I got into performing arts school.
Okay, so did you leave and then, or was it more like a transfer?
No. So essentially what happens is like, I was just so miserable there. I was near the bottom of my class academically. I wasn't showing up to classes, I was doing penalty hours. I was like getting into fights with upperclassmen, and like, it was a whole thing.
So they didn't really mind you going?
Oh, they were happy to see me go. They really were.
But like, I believe right, West Point has a pretty high attrition rate, right? Yeah. Like their goal is to weed people out who shouldn't be officers, right?
Yeah,
so.
But the problem with them is like my PT scores and like a lot of stuff was like, you should be crushing here. What's going on?
Like you should be Army commando or whatever. You should be whatever. You could be an elite soldier if you do it.
Really wanted, like if you tried, you'd be really good here. So they were kind of confused at first, right? And then it just became very apparent that it was like, oh, it's like more like a moral, thing, which is, hey, and they were all actually they were good with it. It was funny though, because I had to go audition. I was like, I'm going to go audition for a performing arts school. I'm near New York. And so I went and auditioned for the school, the American Musical Dramatic Academy, learned 2 monologues or whatever, 2 or 3 monologues. And I got in. And so once I got in, that's when I was like, okay, great. I can follow through with leaving West Point. And then, they gave me an honorable discharge. I left, went home and worked in a box factory for a little bit, which is awful. So, it's funny because these boxes, I would cut corners into boxes. So you get a piece of cardboard, and I was at a machine, and you cut the corners and go. And I was so bad at it, I had to redo things. It was like, I was so terrible. There's probably so many poorly made boxes out there that like have my fingerprints on it, like that don't fold properly. Not a really good factory worker. But I did that for a minute, and then went out here, Los Angeles, went to school.
Oh, the school was out here.
Yeah, auditioned.
So you auditioned in New York, but the school's here.
Yeah, they had a campus in New York, and they had a campus out here. And I was like, I'm going to leave New York a little bit because it's just of the military. I just want to kind of get away and try something new. I got my BFA in acting out here at AMDA, and then some stuff happened, and then I go and got my MFA, like stuff more. So it was like I performed, I was in stuff, I was in plays and stuff. And then I got my MFA from Cal Arts in acting. And during
that's another great school.
Another great school, you know, banger after banger with me, man. I know. Sorry, this is like, I feel like I'm droning on about myself.
No.
And
I'm
like,
just pointing out that I'm talking to an elite.
elite.
I mean, whatever. I was raised, you know my background, like
yeah.
Education matters.
Yeah.
And going to quality schools, I think, does reflect well on people.
Yeah, and I always had this idea of like, you know, I don't know enough, or there's nothing wrong with learning more, especially about like I have no ego when it comes to acting or owning up to things I don't know as far as filmmaking, all this stuff. I really, there's no ego with me when it comes to this kind of stuff, and I think that was the thing, like why I also wanted to pursue, you know, getting an MFA, because it's like, you know, like I'm doing well out here. I've got these incredible agents. Things just weren't quite working out. I was like in like, you know, a West Coast premiere of a play and stuff. And it just, that didn't work out. Everything was kind of just not working out. It's like, well, you know, why not take the time to like just get better? Because there's tons of things I don't know. And Cal Arts being such an experimental school, getting you out of like your head and kind of getting more into your body and like doing weird shit, you know, it's the weird school, you know, for the better. Like it's some people really need that, and I needed that, and it really just opened me up even more so, just kind of everything as a whole performer, and I don't want to say entertainer because that's not really what I'm trying to do, but you know what I mean, right?
No,
yeah.
and I imagine they must have really valued that you were coming from a different place.
Yeah.
I mean, the number of people, the fact that you were at West Point and almost on track to become a lifetime career military officer.
Oh, God.
And then you shift to a bachelor's of fine arts and a master's of fine arts at a school like Cal Arts, which it's interesting because obviously I've known and met a lot of people who do animation up there, and a lot of art and directing. Of course, it's famous for David Lynch,
for sure,
Tim Burton,
and, I mean, all the best like animators, like I mean, that Spider into the Spider-Verse
really
guys.
Great, but really great performers. I actually am aware that like there's the great Groundlings who went there and stuff.
Ed Harris went there, Alison Brie. There are like a lot. There is like this like great history of performers.
So up there, was it? Is it like super rad to be an acting student there because there's these student films being made by do they pluck from the acting program to star in the student films and stuff? Because there's people getting their MFA in filmmaking.
Yeah, 100, and it's a great film school too, right? I think like I'm trying to think of like Sofia Coppola went there for photography. But then James Mangold is a graduate from there, you know, and he just did Indiana Jones film, right?
He's done a ton of great
tons
films.
of movies, right? Yeah, and so it is like there's like it's a really good film program. But it's funny, man, and it's like goes like this with a lot of these performing arts schools. They don't
have the programs interact.
No, ever. I mean, like, look, Cal Arts is interesting in the fact that they would post. If you know someone's casting a short film or a film or whatever they're doing there, they could go to the acting department. They're kind of hallways, right? There's like it's kind of this floor, and all the walls would be covered with like flyers for a party or for you know a short film or for hey I need a VO because I'm an animator. So like it's an interesting way to communicate. But like Cal Arts is known for anyone putting something up on a wall and like. That's how you kind of get people to do things. So the film people would come over and put some flyers up, but you really have to be like on the lookout. And so I didn't really interact a lot with the film department, which is kind of a bummer, but I kind of quickly learned because I was there for 1 year, I was there in COVID where we were kind of all online.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. So that forced me to, you know, the first year we're in person, for most of it, and then COVID hits, right? And then that second year, we're all online. It's a 3-year program for the actors, for the MFA program. And so we're online, and we're being asked to film a lot of stuff. And I just kind of was like, well, you know, like I'm now, like, why not, like, take some film classes, try to do some film stuff, figure this kind of thing out, because it's something that's kind of been in the back of your head where it's like, I've seen people do it and I never necessarily was like, hey man, I can do that better. But I'm like, I think I can do that. I think I know enough, seen enough. I think I can do it. There's things I don't know, but I can learn, right? You know, I can pick up some things, and really it's all about just communicating what you want. So I got to just understand the language that, you know, these filmmakers, these film students are speaking. And so I tried to take some film classes. Things didn't work out because, like, again, the film program, film students have priority. And with COVID, short-staffed. So I couldn't really get into any film programs. But what I did do was I got into incredible writing class by Lou Clark, incredible writer. And then I got into and did my own solo class with him where he was my teacher. I would write and we would just meet up and do our own thing. And then Peter Flaherty, incredible visual artist, installation artist, does a lot of incredible visual art. And he became another mentor of mine. And I would be making short films, essentially. Like, that wasn't like that wasn't his focus, but he became this great, like, resource. And we'd meet like once a week, show my work, what I was working on, what I'm trying to do, and like give me feedback. And it was one of the coolest experiences. You're like you really feel like you're not a student, you're like a peer, and like you're getting this great feedback from these like mentors. At least this is my experience at Cal Arts, right? And it was incredible because they were so helpful, so kind with their time. And then when I'm like working with, you know, for Lou, for example, he's great friends. We're talking about movies and stuff when we're in these one-on-ones. And I mentioned, you know, hey, I was a big fan of like this Mark Pellington film, like way back when. He's like, what? I Melt with You? You like that film that Mark Pellington made that nobody has seen? And even Mark Pellington would say no one has seen. And I was like, yeah, I love that film. And he was like, hey, I'm best friends with Mark Pellington. And boom, like he connected me with Mark, and Mark's been a very, very kind supporter of mine and a good resource. Like, it's just kind of nuts. When I was thinking some doors were kind of closing at Cal Arts, I just kind of found some other people that would help me kind of pursue this filmmaking thing that I've been kind of clearly interested in ever since I was a little kid, but just wasn't, I don't know, didn't have the courage or the kind of, I don't know. There was like something always, I was afraid, I think, just to kind of like put myself out there.
Well, also, I mean, I'm just going to pull this out of my ass, but
please do.
But it sounds like you, you know, when you grow up in a small town, Ohio, you're not exposed to the idea of directing filmmaking stuff. So kind of is natural to go into acting first.
It's easier.
Yeah. It seems more accessible, right? And plus you can hop on any stage. You started with stage, which I actually think is wonderful when people start with stage instead of like wanting to be on camera from like their first. My first acting class, I'd like to get on tape. You know?
It's like, ooh, yikes.
Like, okay. you have to think twice, but it sounds like a very natural progression.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, at Cal Arts, when you were doing this independent study kind of thing.
With there we go. That's the right word. I'm like,
oh, sorry.
No, you're like, Adam, it's called an independent study. No. I was searching for it earlier.
Every school's different. My school had an independent study. Like, could you also grab equipment? Like, did you have access to equipment there, or were you doing it, or was this recent enough that you could like shoot shit on your phone?
Well, yeah. So that's kind of what I decided, because we could figure out, at the time, it normally would have been possible to work out some equipment kind of deal, but it was COVID. And so it made it very difficult. And again, the film program there, I think any other year, they would have been open arms to me and been like, yes, let's figure out something that's going to work for you. Because I was on the waiting list for a lot of classes, because I don't want to put down the film program. They were actually really, really kind, but it became very difficult for them, you know, with all the making sure, because they didn't want anyone getting sick and anything like that, and totally understandable. So it forced me to kind of go into using my phone. Big fan of Sean Baker. Tangerine, I think, is an incredible film. Shot that on an iPhone SE. Like, that doesn't even, like, you can't even find an SE. No one would want one, right? You know, and it's like, that really allowed me. And also at the time, you know, Soderbergh did Unsane, and I think High Flying Bird came out too, 2 films he shot on iPhones. And I was like, wow, you know, I've got this thing here. It's not the camera I want to be using, but it's what I've got. So why should I wait any longer, you know? And that's kind of where Space Junk started coming out of, to get into Space Junk. Because at a certain time, right after I graduated, I'd written this script. I was working on this kind of script with Lou, my other mentor at CalArts, and it was like I want to. A lot of people I see at these like schools and stuff, and this is not trying to throw shade, but like people will be in a writing class, they'll write these incredible things, and then nothing happens with them. And I approached my time with Lou of being like, whatever I make in here, whatever I write in here, I'm going to make. So I got to come at it from that perspective. What's going to be doable for me to accomplish and achieve, while also still being able to explore a visual style, and the kind of things I'm interested in or possibly interested in exploring as a filmmaker. And so out of that, I made that script, and it was like, okay, cool, let's make this thing. And it became very apparent right after I graduated CalArts that like my time right before CalArts, in between my undergrad and my MFA and the time after, once you graduate, it's like, okay, you're done. There's no
more school. You're not going to be a professional student.
Yeah. And no one's going to be there. I mean, yeah, like again, people will help you if you ask for stuff, but like it's not like you're done. You have to figure out what you're going to do now, and agent stuff, all that stuff, right? And what drove me to CalArts was I was so tired of waiting around for work. I wasn't getting enough work at the time. I wasn't getting the auditions that I wanted, or I thought that I at least deserved audition-wise. Not saying I deserved the part, but like a shot at, right? Because I started to fall off at a certain point. And so now I'm like, got my MFA, I've got this passion for making films, but now I'm right back at square one. And what am I going to do? Am I going to sit here, like, again, not to throw some shade, but like what other people might do, wait around for a casting director to give me a part or to audition for someone, and then like
start bartending and tell everyone you should be in pictures?
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? It's like one of those
tricky
things. Yeah, it's like why am I waiting around for these opportunities that clearly people don't know what to do with me as a performer? Like, you're like too old for this, or you're too young for this, but you're kind of got an older vibe, but you're not the right age, or like, I had one things for like something like audition for like the Punisher TV show, and they came back with it's too good looking for this thing. Never got that in my life. And people, I know this isn't a visual medium here, I'm a okay looking person. But like, and then I'd get feedback too, where it was just like, oh, hey, we loved Adam, not the right guy, decided to go a different direction. So it was always just not the right fit. Always what's the phrase? Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. It was just never that. Put on a veil for so many shows, just never worked out. And I was about to fall into that again, graduating CalArts. And I'm like, I'm just kind of done waiting around. Like, I'm going to make my own opportunities. And that's what it's like. I was like, hey, I got my friends involved with Space Junk. I was like, hey, I'm going to make this thing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. Would you want to be in this? So I didn't hold any auditions for any of the cast. I wrote for them. And everyone that's in the film, they're all CalArts people. And yeah, then we made it, very shortly. I feel like very shortly after graduation.
You had written it with that professor's guidance.
Kicking around this idea.
But was it fully formed, or did you continue rewriting after the graduation?
I never stopped writing, man, until the day of everything. I am always changing stuff just because, I go like, why not? If there's a possibility of making it better, sometimes people would be like, oh, that might hurt the film if you're always constantly rewriting. But I always feel my best the more I am writing, the better the thing gets, like for me. And so it was really changing constantly until it kind of settled on the thing that it is now. You know what I mean? Like this weird art house, but like not too... the art house thing is funny because it's like whenever I think of like art house, I think of it's like, it's like... it's a little snobby or a little like, there can be that vibe. I'm not saying that people are like that by any means, but there's like some sort of perception that I have. Like, I don't even like calling my stuff films. I call them movies because I feel like that's a little too, but the art house thing, it's funny because it is an art house film, but I wanted to make sure it was approached with like this sense of humor, this melancholy sense of humor. So I'm kind of poking fun at art house while also like adhering to the form of what an art house film should be.
I mean, like you said, you're making a movie.
Yeah.
And you're just telling a story.
Yeah.
And you told, now, by the way, now that I know your life story, or
Yeah,
the
you
Reader's
can fall asleep.
Digest abbreviated life story, it adds a lot to the film, actually. Because I confess, I am paying attention, but part of my brain is also going, oh, fuck. So you were sort of, I mean, in a way, you were out of place at West Point. You were out of place, but then you went into acting, and then you probably were out of place there. And your character in Space Junk, that person is out of place.
Yeah.
Like, hugely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you were clearly...
You're getting it, Jeff. I love this guy. At one point when I was telling my story, I look over at Jeff, and his eyes were closed for about 30 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. He said he wasn't asleep. He said he does this for all of his interviews, but I suspect...
I think better with the eyes closed. No, it's funny.
You were deep in thought. His eyes were wide. He was so engaged
I'm
with
falling
me.
into your eyes. I'm just eye contact nonstop, and I'm going, who the fuck would say you're not good looking? No, you're too good looking? Fuck them.
It's an insane business with all these casting directors. So
well, and Lord knows
upset.
we don't have to get into casting, but casting, I have nothing but empathy for actors about casting because the way it's done,
it's rough, man.
It's rough, and it's not about you. It's just about how their preconception, how you fit a preconception.
Yeah, and they're looking for something too, and I don't envy their job of needing to look at. It's like almost running a film festival. You have to watch all these things, and you don't want to say no to someone. You don't want. I think you probably turn on every film and you want it to be good. Why would you want to sit there and watch a bad film? I think every casting director and actor that comes in, they want you to be the person. You know what I mean? I truly do believe, as much as I have frustrations with casting directors, I don't think there's any casting director that approaches it.
Oh no, it's really look, acting is fucking hard.
Yeah.
But every actor I've ever talked to who made a film and had to cast their film has said something along the lines of, I get it now. Yeah. Like you're like, that person's great, but not for this. Or they showed me something I wasn't expecting for this, and I'm going to go with it.
Yeah.
But then that means someone who fit the preconception didn't get it. Like you realize, unless you're going to make 100 different versions of the film, you have to go with someone.
Yeah.
And it's tough for everybody.
It's really hard. I want to go back though to what you said though, with the character being out of place.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, I have my Jewish name is Gershom. Okay. And Gershom is the son. So is the son of Moses, and the name means stranger in a strange land. Isn't it?
Get out of town. And that's the name they gave you at religious school, when they assign a Hebrew name, or was it your parents?
So here's the fun thing with this. I actually had to go through conversion because I didn't grow up Jewish. You didn't grow up with that, so I had to choose. I had to choose a name when I went through that. Because you go through the Beit Din, you do the whole deal, right?
So later in life, you went for.
Yeah, well, because it's a weird thing.
I want those bar mitzvah presents.
I want those presents. I need that bar mitzvah money to go make a movie. So I really need that.
You actually just wrote a script now. You should make a movie about an adult who holds a bar mitzvah just to raise funds for a film.
There we go. We could.
Adam Sandler would probably produce it.
It'd be a sequel to the new bar mitzvah.
It'd be great for that. You're so not invited.
It'd be, you are so invited to my bar mitzvah.
I'm going to invite everyone I know.
Yeah, please come. Bring money.
Sadly, you're just going to get a bag of peanuts and a water.
Yeah, but it'll be worth it. Trust me.
No, but that's interesting. So
yeah.
How old were you when you...
Oh, man. it was maybe I was around 25. And
so
post West Point, but I was going to synagogue at West Point a lot. I was going to, Shabbat dinners all the time because there's a small Jewish community there.
West Point's known for
it's known for its Jews.
There's not a Jewish parent and two lay Jews. Well, I don't know if you're necessarily a lay Jew, but I am a lay Jew.
Sure.
But in fact, I had to tell my wife. Oh, well, I'm saying this while it's being recorded. But this morning, I actually had to inform her, well, the kid doesn't have school Monday. She's like, why? I went, it's Yom Kippur.
It's Yom Kippur.
I realize that we don't know in this household when it's coming, but that she's staying home because of course, LA Unified School District, too many teachers are Jewish for them to teach on the high holidays for Jews. So they take a day off and they call it an administrative day. Because if you told all the Christians, we're taking the day off because we have too many Jewish teachers, they'd be like, well, what about ours? Some of our, it's just funny.
Yeah, that's actually kind of like insane. But the workaround with that, when it's like, well, we take Christmas time.
Administrative day, but anyway. So around the time you were getting the BFA?
No, so I was done with that, and so it's like, at West Point I was going to synagogue, and then when I came back out here, I kind of
was that. By the way, I'm going to ask a totally unrelated. I'm going to jump in and interrupt again and say, so what was it? Kind of like, was it a nice relief to like get into that little community at West Point, and like feel part of that community, even though you didn't, because you were out of place.
Yeah.
In there in general.
As well.
Heck, you might have even got a little more backup on the pacifist vibe.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, you're kind of hitting on it, because it is like this. So the funny thing is, it was like I was kind of next door roommates. I'm almost forgetting how this worked. Or he was either in my squad for boot camp. I forget. It was the rabbi's son. There's like there's a rabbinical. There's like a rabbi.
Like the rabbi chaplain.
There we go. Yeah, the rabbi like chaplain, the equivalent of that, right, or whatever. And it was his son that was there, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to come to services and this and that?" And I was like, I'm not like a religious person really at all. But then I was like, I realized, I'm like, okay, great, wow. He was like, if you go to services, you don't have to go do this other training and stuff. And I was like, sign me up, I'm in. So I would go mostly to get out of certain things I didn't want to do, but it was really, really fun. I had it felt right. It felt nice. So welcoming, so inviting. And it was like probably something I needed at a time, feeling out of place, even though I was still out of place. Like my Hebrew is still not very good. Right. I mean, but it was kind of like finding a place that I felt a little bit less out of place, right? And then when I left West Point and was out here, I kind of, again, didn't go to synagogue or really have like a community again either, because again, I'm a stranger again in another strange land. I keep on kind of putting myself in these like environments where it's like kind of works, but it also kind of isn't working, or like we don't know what to do with you kind of thing. And it wasn't till I was like dating a lot of Jewish women at the time, and then like one person I was dating at the time, their father was a rabbi, or like was like a rabbi at a time, wasn't anymore. And so it's kind of constantly around, people that maybe were at a time more religious Jews. So it was always kind of around, right? So it was always, once I was like, dating a lot more, it was always kind of a thing that was going on. And then when I met my wife now, Racheli, she wasn't born and raised in Israel, but she lived in Israel for a while. Her dad still lives in Israel. He's from Morocco. And when we were together, her mom is from Philadelphia. But so when we were kind of getting together, it was like, wow, they grew up religious, Orthodox Jews, not anymore. Dad, my father-in-law is still pretty religious though. But they really were up on the holidays and the holy days and stuff. And like, it was really, really nice. I was like, you know what? Like, I think I should just kind of go through with this, like make this official, and make this kind of like an official conversion thing, which sounds like intense. It's really not. You just kind of go and like,
that's a couple classes.
It's a couple classes. Yeah. And you like,
it's painfully easy. Yeah. And everyone thinks it's like tough.
Yeah, it's not. And it's like everyone that's there is like, everyone there is Jewish. And it's like, either it's like, I'm here to catch up on this stuff. Or like, my parents weren't religious. So I just kind of want to know what's going on. Or I never had a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah. So like, I want to be here to take these classes. Right. It's so you
had an identity growing up, but no practicing.
Yeah. Well, my parents are like hardcore, not hardcore, but they're Catholic.
Catholic.
That's their deal.
Oh, got you.
Yeah, man.
Got you.
Yeah.
Oh, so French Catholic Canadian. Got it.
Yeah. So that's really the thing. And because I never like get into all this stuff, because now it's like once you're converted, you do the whole thing. It's like you're Jewish. That's what you are. That's your deal. My whole family now, on one side, as Jewish as they can be, you know what I mean? And so it's really funny that like it, and how I got into it at West Point too is the rabbi's son thought I was Jewish.
Oh, he looked at you and
Yeah.
he went, I guess, you know what? I could see it. I guess I could see it.
I guess, I don't know. I don't really go, like they immediately.
We live in a tough world, right? Because we're not supposed to judge people by their phenotype anymore.
Watch yourself.
You shouldn't look at them. But everyone looks at each other and goes, where are you from? Where's your family?
Yeah.
What's your family history?
Everyone just, it was just so funny when I said I was West Point. Everyone thought I was Jewish. Everywhere I went, everyone thought I was Jewish at the, and it just became this like thing. And it's like, yeah, why not? And it was great. Still love it. I love being Jewish now. It's awesome. Parents are big fans of it. They were all about it. They're like, yeah, that's great. Go for it. That's what you want to do. Excellent. And my wife and her family, they didn't push me into converting or anything as well. It was like, you don't need to do that only if you want to. But it's another great experience. Again, there's this constant theme of like me and my life. Now that I'm talking to you about this, it's like being like a stranger in a strange land, being in like a weird circumstance that maybe I don't quite fit in. But I'm always wanting to like learn, very curious. That's hence like school, still going to West Point, even though I know I want to do theater. And like,
honestly, it's a great thing that you end up, you're the stranger in a strange land, and then you find your place in that.
Yeah.
You find your place in that land.
I carve it out a little bit. Yeah.
Like if there was only another Hebrew word for like the stranger who found his place.
Yeah.
Among
Right?
strangers.
Yeah.
Because it's beautiful. Because instead of quitting or getting angry or moving away, you made the best. And I know it's hard to date in LA without dating Jewish girls anyway, because I don't know. I apologize to anyone listening to this who thinks like, the world is, how come, 0.1% of the world gets talked about so much? I can't figure it out.
I know.
But LA is like 20% Jewish or something. It's it's a lot.
It's insane.
Especially in the acting world or theater world.
Yeah. Entertainment in general. Yeah.
If it weren't for Jews, gays, and gay Jews, there'd be no live theater.
And we would be worse off for that, I think.
Yeah. No,
Come on,
it's an old joke, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's like, why are all the plays about these topics? Because that's who's writing them, and that's who's paying to go.
Yeah. It's a good, it's been a great contribution to society that Jews have given us in entertainment.
I think there's arguments, yeah.
Right?
I won't. Needless to say,
running in trouble now.
The deep down, I could not hide my pride watching Oppenheimer at all these great physicists from all over Europe, all these guys with their accents, and some from New York. And
sure,
Oppenheimer himself was born here.
Yeah,
but I was like, fucking hell, how did this little community manage to produce this many geniuses? Like, it is kind of trippy.
They got in where they could fit in, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because we were actually, I do know the historical reason. Banned from the guilds, banned from the trades, banned from everything. So had to go into banking and science.
Yeah.
That was it.
I mean, they got in
to do
where
these
they
new
fit in.
fields because otherwise, because
no one else wanted to do it.
If you wanted to I'm not gonna take on a Jewish apprentice in my leather shop. Fuck you, you heathen.
No, 100%. And I think like back in the day too, like in Roman times or whatever, like the tax collectors. I mean, no one wanted that job because everyone hated the tax collectors. So they're like, great, we hate Jews. You guys are gonna do that job. I mean, like that's kind of like
being outsiders. Had its downsides.
100%.
But I mean, there's a very good. I saw the famous stand-up comedian Alan King.
Okay.
He and who was the other guy debated at like Cambridge debated two British comedians on what's better, American comedy or British comedy.
Oh, interesting.
And he made the point of like British comedy is the comedy of the upper class, and American comedy is comedy of the outsider. It's African Americans, it's Jews, it's the fringe putting up their fist to power with comedy.
That's kind of great because it's always, with us here in America, they're just like punching up more so. Yeah.
And British comedy often is, sometimes they'll make fun of the upper class.
Sure.
But there's a lot of punching down in those cultures.
Oh, that's so interesting. That's kind of a very, 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 very smart observation.
Yeah, that's Alan King, who actually I never found funny, but obviously a bright guy.
You got something right. I don't know.
You did do that right. But yeah, so I get it. So okay, so how do we get back onto your story?
Yeah, I'm derailing this, man. I'm talking so much.
So dating and you got interested in that and obviously I don't know. So you were focusing on acting and all that.
Yeah.
And you did this conversion.
And And then so I converted before I went to Cal Arts.
Right. So in between BFA and MFA.
Yeah. I had some once the acting auditions are drying up, I had some free time. So that's where I kind of was like auditioning for grad schools, doing the conversion thing, got married. And then, so then I went to Cal Arts, as a converted Jew who was married. And then left there as a converted Jew who's married, who now wants to make movies.
Right. Because you went in for acting and you came out. You came out already writing, and like you said something huge, which was from the get go. If I was writing it, I wanted to make it. Yeah. Which is a big difference than someone who wants to have a stack of scripts in a drawer for that one day when they get a meeting and the person says, "What do you got?" And you can say, "I got 10."
Right. Because I just kind of knew again, like what it seemed like was happening for me. It's like I was tired of just waiting around, and I just knew that just seems like another waiting game. Write 10 scripts. Let's wait till someone wants to do one of them. Right? It's like I can act. We know I can act, sort of. Right? You know what I mean? I kind of know this now. I can kind of write. Then let's just why don't I just play all the parts in regards to like behind the camera, and then I'll act in front of it, because then I don't have to worry about scheduling an actor that's got to be there for every single shoot day. You know what I mean? It kind of just came out of necessity and scheduling why I made myself the lead and all the stuff I do.
Wait, did you consider not playing the lead?
There at one point, because people kept on saying hey, it's really hard for your first time doing anything to write, direct, and act in it. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But I'm like, military is hard, and I did that, and I left on my own terms. There's been so many things. Working at a box factory was hard, but I did, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, I'm tired of the people that close to me that I admired weren't saying that, but other people that were smart, kind, just trying to look out for me because they wanted me to succeed. Where it's you probably shouldn't do all this stuff. I'm like, well, I'm gonna fucking do all this stuff. Why not? I'm just I'm going to learn, and look, the worst thing that's going to happen, no one's going to want to watch this movie.
Yeah, which is a pretty low bar. That's not that bad.
Yeah, low stakes, honestly.
Yeah. I know. Send it out to 20 film festivals. If you had gotten 20 no's, what harm was it actually?
Yeah. It's just cool.
It's not like you're in line at the supermarket and people are like, oh, that's the guy who's filmed and didn't go anywhere. Fuck it. That's no problem.
There are no. I have nothing to lose with with this movie. The other one that I made too. There's nothing to lose. I've got. So it's why not? Why not go for it and see what happens? And I think Space Junk was a big swing for someone who knew nothing about making movies, right? And then
I gotta say, I don't think
on their own.
Did we cover that at your Q&A at the theater last year? Did you say this is my first film?
I don't know if I did. I know it was just, we were talking about the iPhone aspect of it. I believe that was mentioned.
I know, maybe. But honestly, I didn't know you were that green.
Because
it certainly looks, it's got the vibe of this is his seventh
or something.
Going short. You know what I mean?
And he just decided to shoot on an iPhone as some sort of choice or experiment or whatever.
But the sophistication of the choices are impressive. That. It doesn't look and feel I took a stab at it.
It's amateur hour.
No.
I know. I appreciate that because again, a lot of that, all that stuff. I put a lot of. I watch so many things, right? And I'm I'm very lucky. I was able to hang on to a lot of things that I liked, and it's you're stealing from a lot of people certain things and vibes, this and that, certain shot styles and stuff like that. And filtered through me, it kind of came out into this thing, and I kind of knew I didn't know if it was all going to work, but it was one of those things where I'm I'm just going to do this. I think I know, I do know what I want. And because I'm not being indecisive on that, I think that's why it kind of comes out as, I guess, a relatively confident film. You know what I mean? Movie. I shouldn't say film. I'm going to say movie. I'm going to keep it on brand with myself here. But I think it kind of, you see that there, right? And I think that kind of translates over to, my other short that I done as well. Another big swing, because I also constantly want to keep myself interested in challenging myself. And I think, again, with Space Junk, it's didn't know anything at all, and it turned out all right, And with Men Grieving, The other short film, it's another big swing. It's a oneer, and it's like a whole deal, and it's fun. I think for me, the challenges are exciting, and that's what keeps it kind of engaging for me, I guess, now as a filmmaker, like really pushing myself.
Yeah, and now that I know your story,
I know.
The oneer. I mean, did all your stage experience? Because like
Came into play, yeah.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, obviously a one-shot film, and it's not short, right? It's
like 12 minutes.
12 minutes.
And then 13 because of the credits.
But 12. I mean, forget the logistics of it.
Yeah.
It's a stage performance, right?
For sure.
With cameras.
Yeah.
With the audience as the camera, but you and your fellow actor,
Lucas,
are performing on stage, really, because there's no breaks, there's no cuts, there's no nothing.
Yeah, and it was one of those things that kind of just turned into that, because initially it wasn't like I was like, oh, cool, I really want to do a oneer, but it was this thing of like I'm constantly trying to like, I'm interested in putting the audience in the circumstance of the characters, right? And my characters are always in, at least the main character is always in a very uncomfortable situation.
Almost unreal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. With how like awkward and like the weird position that he's being.
Well, we're not right. Like you let the audience wonder.
Yes.
Right. You don't spoon feed the audience.
Right.
Exactly what's happening in either film.
Yeah, 100%. Right. Because I like to drop people in. I like to disarm an audience. Right. And I felt like with this, I'm like, wow, what would make this already uncomfortable topic in men grieving more uncomfortable is if it's like happening in real time and the audience is stuck with these two grieving men who are, incapable of dealing with their emotions. And I felt like a oneer would give the right energy. Because a lot of people that watch it, some people, it's a interesting film because some people like either really hate it because it's so kind of in your face with the lens that we're using and the oneer and the vibe and the very dry, dark comedy.
Well, and it's intentionally claustrophobic, right?
Yes, 100%. So we're using like a very wide lens. I mean, this is an anamorphic lens that is, it's almost giving you like a whole like 180 view of this room. And it's supposed to be for outside or some incredible lens flares in like a really nice, big, spacious room or some sort of, incredible setting outside where you can see, mountains or something like that, right? Or a big house or something. And no, we're using this incredible lens that's meant for that, but in the smallest waiting room possible, and like, again, I wanted it to feel like no matter where these guys are at, you're going to be able to see them on camera. They can't escape the audience, and the audience can't escape these guys. To kind of enhance the uncomfortability there. And I never would have done, men grieving like that if I hadn't done something like Space Junk, where it was like, that was a challenge. And because I just didn't know a lot, I learned a little and try to apply what I learned to men grieving while also wanting to still be in a position to where I'm like, I don't know everything. I don't want to do something that's safe as far as like, what's the next logical movie to make, right? The next logical movie to make would have been a even better movie on my iPhone. You know what I mean? Right? To some degree, right? But this is like, why not push myself even further and see what I can learn? And everyone's always usually on board because I guess it's probably not coming through on this. I probably sound really boring, but I get very excited about my projects. So
I sure as fuck hope you don't sound boring. I think that the opposite is true.
Okay, good.
I don't know.
This is the most I've ever talked about myself.
If someone's, well, I'm glad. But, at the end of this, when I have you, seriously, whatever, people don't give feedback, but no one listening to this has ever heard someone talk about almost ending up in the military and then getting 2 degrees in acting and immediately jumping into filmmaking.
It doesn't make sense. It's like
not,
zigging.
No, it makes perfect sense, but I'm just saying, like, it's not a boring tale.
Good. Okay, good.
I mean, it's not like, another story. Another person
heard this one. Yeah. No, that's good. And I hope it's encouraging. Like, this wasn't like the plan. You know what I mean? I mean, there really was no plan. And it's just funny to end up here, like, with Space Junk being received, like I had no idea people were going to enjoy the movie. I knew it made me laugh, and it was something like I would want to watch. But I wasn't sure if like other people were going to be into it. And then Men Grieving too. I was really hoping, that it got into all the festivals. A lot of the ones I really was aiming for. I'm like, this is actually going to be a challenge to get into some of these, I think. Right. And it has, and it's very, very exciting to see where I'm like, I feel like I'm doing a great job of setting the bar high enough, but it's still achievable, right? Where there's been some disappointments with Space Junk, some disappointments with Men Grieving, but like at the end of the day, like, I mean, come on, you're going to get disappointed with some of these things, right? Like you make a thing, it's not exactly the thing you wanted, and it's kind of all like, I don't know. It's like, there's this weird thing where I think of like when people, like with these movies, like I kind of go into these things now where I'm like, I know I'm going to be disappointed with some things, but it's like, whatever, control what you can control, and everything else is like, it is what it is. And it's like with life too, where it's like people like do the whole thing where they're like, hey, live life with like no regrets, all that stuff. That's fucking stupid. I have so many regrets, like, because that shows that I'm like living a life. There's things that I regret, but that's cool, true. And they're my regrets, and that's fine.
I am often the monarch of regrets. I got regrets coming out my ass.
Yeah,
but that comes with having goals, right?
It means you're living.
Yeah.
You're living.
Yeah.
And
If my goal, if your goal is like, I just want to get by. No,
It's like, what is that?
I don't want to, run a film festival or anything. I just want like a job where I get a steady job where I could just like get. I know, believe me. Sometimes I'm jealous. Sometimes I regret not being the person who just got the degree in accounting and works 9 to 5.
Completely agree. I see this like on like people I went to high school with that I'm not in touch with anymore, but I see like they all bought a house. They had like a big family and stuff. It's like, man, like there is some appeal there. But it's also like, man, I don't want that. At the end of the day, I really don't want that. Because I wouldn't be able to do this thing, right? Or whatever it is. And it's like, yeah, the same thing with like starting a film festival. That's crazy. No one out there was like, hey, Jeff, will you please start a film festival? You know what I mean? It was like, it all had to be generated from you. You took a risk. It's a gamble. You put yourself out there. And I think that's what, like, if you're not taking risks, and you don't have regrets, it's like, that's not a filmmaker that I'm interested in at all, right? You know what I mean? Like, if you're batting 1,000, then you're really not swinging. You know what I mean? I don't even like baseball. I don't like baseball at all. I'm making a baseball reference, but you know what I mean? It's like,
I love going to a baseball game, but I don't enjoy the sport that much.
Yeah,
but it's a fun experience.
Yeah.
But also, I was going to say that like there on occasion, there's that person who hits it out of the park, baseball analogy,
sure, yeah,
on their first film, and like tons of awards and blah blah blah, and it goes somewhere, and then like the follow up, the next 2 to 3 are like crap. Like, I mean, you don't want to start with you don't want to be perfect.
Orson Welles is like the best example of that. Never could live up to Citizen Kane, right? Citizen Kane, like that. After that, it was like, he's got some bangers though, but like just totally underappreciated.
There's film professors who talk about how much better the films that came after that are, but they didn't have the impact.
Yeah. And it's just like,
So I'm pointing at you so I can ask you a question,
because you're like, I want you to leave, Adam.
Films. Here's the two. No,
this has been 5 hours.
I want to ask about a connection between the two films, besides all the other connections. That is you, which is the theme of loss and death.
Yeah,
because that's in both.
Yeah.
And does that come from because I mean, I listened to your story and I'm like, shit, man, you were almost surrounded by death in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And then you dodge that, but you still seem to be like, there's an awareness of it.
Yeah.
There's awareness of the fragility of life in a way in both films.
No, you're definitely hitting on that. It's definitely something I'm fascinated with. And I've been around, it's like to think like, have I had any like, experienced intense grief and I kind of go or loss, and it's kind of tough because I can't. So I guess like when I was younger, and this is, a thing, this isn't like the thing that has impacted me by any means, but I think me being near and experiencing people experiencing intense grief has left an impact on me. Because I remember at a young age, my grandmother died, and look, she lived a great life. Grandmothers, at a certain point, that's what grandparents do. You know what I mean? Like, so it's
we expect to bury them. Yeah,
yeah. It's not a huge, not to diminish it, not a huge tragedy. It's not a shocker. You know what I mean? But at that time, there was I remember it was an open casket, and it was so weird to see my grandmother. I was like 5 years old. Weird. I started to laugh. That was my first, I started laughing, whatever. And so, but then I remember, my mom was like, don't laugh, whatever. And then I remember going back, and I remember seeing like my dad and all these guys, because like you kind of grow up. My dad wasn't like this by any means, but I was in the environment of playing football and stuff where it's like boys don't cry kind of deal. And I remember seeing like all these. My dad has 10 brothers and sisters. I remember seeing 5 brothers, him included, and seeing like all these, like, as they should, their mothers is gone, right? Crying and weeping. And it was really interesting, counter to like the next day going to football practice, and like crying is not a thing that's like allowed, right? It's in small town in Ohio.
No, it is.
Right?
It is. It's an interesting thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our kid, she's my stepdaughter.
Yeah.
And at her grandmother's funeral, she's like, why is my dad crying?
Yeah.
Because she was a little young for it. And I was like, his fucking mom died. I literally cursed her out. No, I did not curse at the little kid.
No, but it's like,
I was like, wouldn't you cry if your mom died?
Yeah.
But people look at men. Isn't that heartbreaking even today with all we've tried to do of getting rid of these pressures that, a 7-year-old kid is like, why is a grown man crying? Like, grown men don't cry.
It's like a cause for concern when we see like a grown man do that to some degree.
I know it.
It's just so strange. And I've been around this. And then like when my grandfather died, I remember like, and I have so much regret about this. Like I was doing a play at the time, and I was so pissed off that he died. And I had to go home to the funeral and then go back and do the show. And that, it was a whole deal. And I remember being like, and now I'm like, God, you're such an asshole for doing that. And like, I really miss my grandfather. I wish I would have. He was always like, wanting to connect with me. And he was always so interested, was so happy when I left the military. He was like one of the only people that was very happy when I left West Point. And it was so being around that and then seeing how that affected my mom and my dad and stuff. And then my mom has a different relationship with her family. And it's so weird. I'm going on this tangent though, because you're hitting on something, because I haven't really experienced, me personally, a big loss, like I've said, but I've been around, and I feel like I become even more observant when someone is grieving. And when someone's grieving in America, it's like this thing of like, go do that on your own time. I don't want to see you like, do that in private, please, right? If you're going to weep and you're a grown man, or anyone, go away and do that, please. Like, there seems to be a general thought on that, right? And so like, again, with my grandfather dying, it was this like, oh, okay, well, it's seeing these men grieve again, but then how they were like trying to hold back their emotion. It was so fascinating to me. And then my attitude towards it was so fascinating now when I look back on it. It's like, what are we talking about here? But then my mom has a different relationship with her family, and not to get this happened right before I started working on men grieving. She's a little estranged from her family, and her brother killed himself, and I saw how that affected. She couldn't tell me the news. My dad told me, and hearing him process this was so heartbreaking. And then hearing my mom, when she could finally talk to me about it, and then talking about her experience at the funeral and stuff, I guess I'd become very receptive to the people's emotions. Not that I have some sort of gift or anything, but for some reason
you're empathic.
Yeah, I kind of start to pick up on these things, and all these things happen around me all the time. And maybe this is a bad thing. I remember being at the gym before I started doing men grieving as well, and there's this guy on a bike doing his thing, and I'm working out, and I just happen to overhear this conversation. This other older guy goes up, he goes like, "Hey, Jim, whatever, haven't seen you in what have you been up to?" Goes, "Well, my wife just died yesterday." And the guy goes, "Oh, that's too bad." He's like, "Well, I guess it's good that you're here doing something. He goes, yeah, there's nothing else to do. And he goes off and starts lifting weights. And I was like, whoa, this is wild. And then like being now in like this, like seeing these two older men do this interaction, like that's a crazy, and that is an insane interaction to have, right? At a gym, and they just go on their own way. And then again, going to synagogue a lot too. There's always this, unlike in most of, I think, like American society of like grieve on your own, there's more of like grieve with the community kind of vibe.
It's required by tradition.
Yeah. And this one person, they came up and spoke, and it was fascinating to me, and I kind of never forgot it, where he kind of articulated where when I would see people grieve, this is kind of something he said, it's not a direct quote here. But he's like, I'd see people grieve before, I would kind of keep them at an arm's distance. Like I don't want that on me. Right. And then he lost his son. And when he said it, after I lost my son, all I wanted to do was be around those people. Right. And it's just so fast. This dynamic of grief. And I think also, sure, I'm biased, me being a guy, and how like the men kind of process emotions. It's really fascinating to me. And so I don't think that's ever going to leave my work at all. The next thing I'm working on is something within that same vein, like a character kind of dealing with something like that. Because I do think too, with this grief, with tragedy, and when you have a character that is awful at handling that, or kind of where we are finding them in the story incapable of processing this kind of grief, or not able to articulate their feelings or emotions, right? It's ripe for good comedy as well, right? And it's ripe for a good character arc, for a journey, for a character to go on to possibly, discover something about themselves, or discover something about, maybe the person that they lost, right? And I think both the Asher character and Space Junk and Harrison and Percy and Men Grieving kind of go on this journey. One's a little bit more tragic than the other, but it is. I am always constantly fascinated by these characters that have such a hard time processing their feelings, because for some reason they are ill-equipped to deal with their emotions, and those feelings, are not being able to deal with them. Makes them do maybe crazy things or have crazy behavior, which can then be received comedically. I think a great touchstone for me is like Punch Drunk Love. Adam Sandler's character in that, very much a character that's in this, not able to process.
He's out of place in his own family.
Yeah, he's out of place like in his own body. How he's like honestly, like how he's feeling. And so I love those kind of characters. And again, being someone that's been out of place, but maybe hasn't directly experienced the great, not to compare griefs. One grief isn't, but like more so being present for people experiencing. These are just the instances that are popping up in my head at the moment. But sorry, that's a long tangent. But I'm glad you brought that up.
It's a great tangent. Yeah. And I'll add, I'm just gonna put a cherry on top of the pie, and I mean, it is the human condition.
Yeah.
We're cursed with a frontal lobe. We're like kind of the only living thing that is aware it's impermanent and will die. Like that adorable little bunny rabbit. I don't think he's sitting there going, well, I better enjoy the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Because I better eat all the hay pellets I can and have some fun zoomies around the table, because, life isn't forever. Like, no, we're like stuck with this weird thing where like we are aware of the human condition is it doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
And I believe the central tenet, I was told, so that the central tenet of Buddhism is there's two things in life, which is number one is you're not going to live forever, and number two is what are you going to do now that you know number one?
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
And so that's why like great art is about death and surviving, being a survivor of losing someone, because it's, I have had actually massive loss now.
Yeah.
Of a peer, of a lifelong friend, lost him to COVID actually, and it was
Sorry
like
about that.
yeah, I know. And by the way, I'll share that one of what I learned, I can't shut the fuck up about it even 3 years later. Like I just, how are you not going to mention that? Yeah, actually, it'll happen. Like value your friends because he was supposed to be around for another 40 years.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be. We were friends from age 13 to 52.
That fucking sucks.
And then all of a sudden his wife calls me and says he's gone, and it's like,
oh man,
well, what do I do now? And the answer is like every time something happens, I'm reminded I can't call him.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
So thank you for making, and maybe the Sherman Oaks Film Festival and Film Invasion Los Angeles. I don't put my finger on the scale for films much, but there is a joke around the selection committee that like, if you make Jeff cry, odds are it's going to be, he's going to fight for it. But they're always good films. Anyway, if a film that can make you cry like that, because we need help doing it because we're told not to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it is important to explore that too. Cause it's like all these, not to bring up your friend, but like you probably have so many emotions on the daily that are like, and some days where it's less than other. You know what I mean? Like it's so weird. It's fucking weird.
No, and
man.
it doesn't go away. That's the interesting part. Is I think I learned a year. I think I told his wife. Now I won't call his widow, but his wife. Like every once in a while we talk and we just talk about how much we miss him. So I realized, turns out it's not that it gets better with time. No. It's just you kind of accept. But no, like actually we were part of a trio, and our third friend, who is my closest friend in the world, is his older sister just passed. Oh, and I turn to my fucking wife and go, I can't call David. The only other person who knew Sujay's older sister as well as me.
Oh God. And
I can't call him and go, oh my God, can you believe she's gone?
Yeah.
Like I got to talk to my wife who never met her.
Yeah, it's fucking it's crazy.
It's weird.
It's so
and of course
weird.
My friend doesn't want to talk about it. He's like, he's Hindu and doesn't want to talk about this loss at all. I'm like, you need to talk? He's like, I'll call you if I need to. So the phone's not going to ring.
Yeah, but see, it's like, it's so nuts. Like even what you have to deal with, what everyone else has to deal with, or how everyone processes this stuff. It's like so fascinating to me. And again, even this, like me seeing you explain all this, like what you were just describing is, okay, kind of hilarious, but awful at the same time. You know what I mean? I mean, it's both these things. And I love, again, those are my favorite kind of movies where it's like, you're not sure if you should laugh or you should cry, or like if these characters knew you were laughing at what was going on, like how would they feel? Like, again, not to make minimize anything here, but like just even you explain this story, you were so animated with like, I want to talk to this guy, but I can't talk to this, and it's like, fuck, like why'd you fucking die? Because I wish I could talk to you, and then it's like, but then fuck, why'd you have to die? Because like,
I mean, I probably shouldn't have used real names, but the wonderful thing was I told my friend's wife that I would call Sujay and tell him, and I called him and I told him David's dead, and his first words were that fucker. Because we were all funny together. We were the funny guys in high school and junior high. And it was like, fuck him.
Yeah.
How'd he fucking do this to us? Like we would have everyone wants to be the first to go, basically. Right, so everyone else has to grieve for them.
Yeah.
And fuck him. He won this race. Dude, like, I don't know.
No, but dude, that's what's so like, because that's so real, that like feeling. And it's so interesting to me, and that's why like when you're like there's nothing that can like the grief stays with you, right, no matter what. And that's why, like, not to go into men grieving, but that's why there's these two guys that are in office. There's in this world I've created, there's an experimental drug that might take your grief away forever. And these guys are more willing to fill out mountains of paperwork than to maybe actually talk to each other and deal with it.
And they don't know if they're getting the placebo or the drug. I know it's
and it's so like it is this thing where grief, it's like it's something that just gets added on. Like, the more you lose, that stuff's never going to go away. So you're just actually going to be experiencing more and more. There's no way to avoid grief unless you live in a bubble. But then you'd have to be grieving the life that you're not living. So it's like it's just this stuff that's going to be added on to you. These tragic losses that are going to happen, and how you deal with them. I mean, again, your friend's response of humor right away, that fucker, that is like, that's brilliant. And it's so true. I mean, like, as funny as that is, it's also heartbreaking. It's all the things, right? You know, and it's just like, and thank you for sharing all this stuff.
It is the human condition.
Yeah.
That is life, you know? And,
yeah.
And it is, It's why, you know, I don't know. I was going to bother saying like, it's why we have kids and shit. So that honestly, the only reason I like social media is, well, besides the pets.
Yes, the pet
love the
videos.
Pets. The pets are
yes,
nice.
Yeah,
I love the husky videos because they're freaking amazing, and you don't want one in your own house.
My feed is filled with bulldogs and French bulldogs, and
but it's also, you know, seeing young people get married and have kids.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we got a teenager, so it's like, you know, she's actually super cool and super fun.
She sounds very cool.
But like, you know, you in your mid 50s, it's about sickness and death. I mean, it's like, who's getting cancer? Who's getting this? Yeah. Who's getting that? Who's lost someone? Who's lost another person? Who just lost a parent? Who's like, it's all, you know, it's like you go through life and it's like, there's weddings and there's births and all these fun occasions.
Yeah.
And then like after midlife, it truly is like, enjoy it while you can, because after midlife, it's kind of like, well, you get graduations. Thank God we get graduations.
Thank God for graduations.
But after college graduations, then maybe a wedding. But like all the gatherings are about loss, and sickness. It's a weird turn. So I love seeing these people. You know, thankfully this film festival has been wonderful because I meet more young people because people tend to make films in their 20s and 30s, and then then you become follow them on Instagram and you see they're like sharing pictures of like pregnancies and births, and I'm like, it's nice.
This is so nice.
Want me to tell you my shitty story? No.
You're so gloomy. Yeah, when I walked into Jeff's home, it's doom and gloom in here. There's cobwebs everywhere.
Gloom.
Not a single light in this house.
I know the coffin in the living room is a bit much.
Yeah, I was like, come on, really?
But it was on sale.
You're like, why not? It's going to happen soon.
Yeah, we're going to need
sooner or later.
Actually, I still, even though it is against Jewish law, I kind of want to be cremated.
Interesting.
And put in a bunch of urns because I didn't breed my own child. I want to be like, you know, all the nieces and nephews. I want to give like, you know, 1/10 of my ashes to like 10 different people or something.
That's actually kind of cool.
I want to be spread around, maybe in salt shakers, whatever. And then you can like put me on your food if you need to. No, I don't know.
Is that kosher? Do you think that's kosher?
It's probably not. It's probably
cannibalism. Is that cannibalism at that point? I don't know.
I mean, someone would argue if they won't let you have a cheeseburger, they'll probably argue against eating human ashes.
I like that thought, though. That's so kind of you. Maybe they'll sprinkle me on
maybe they'll put me on the rose bushes, whatever they want to do. But I kind of like, I don't know. I don't really see the reason of just being buried and
all that's
having a spot to visit.
Well, and that's what's interesting there. That process is weird. I'm so happy I'm not alive to experience being that. You know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense, but you know what I mean? Because it's weird. Putting someone in a box, weird. Burning them, weird. It's strange. But what else are you supposed to do? What do you like? It's so weird.
We got to do something.
Got to do something, man.
The whole fucking, well, now we've gone from your films to death to everything to the human condition to the fact that, I mean, religion happened because of death and ancestor worship.
Sure.
That's why people refer to God as the Father, because originally it was like, you know, we all think our grandparents watch over us.
Sure,
them, and that's why you said God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It was like, it was grandpa. Yeah. It was great-great-grandpa. Yeah. You were just, every house had its own God, which was your ancestors. We just ancestor worship. So you buried them and kept them around, or you know, in India, it was like, seems like more hygienic to burn them, by the way.
Yeah, I mean,
once you learn about like microbes and shit, like keeping dead bodies in the bed. But it is pretty cool. Like my first wife, half her family was from West Virginia, and so actually there's a family cemetery on a farm. Like,
oh, that's crazy. Like, that's kind of
right.
Cool.
People used to always bury your family in your own yard.
Oh, that's nuts! And they still own the.
They won't let me do that here in LA. I can't get the permit.
They just won't. You can have a pool, but no, they won't let me have that.
I can get a permit for solar panels. But
who needs those? You need a burial plot.
I want to dig a plot. That would be
in
great.
The front yard.
2 empty spots in the grass in the front yard, and when people are like, "What's going on there?" I'm like, "Oh, just that's where we're going to be buried." Probably keep everyone. No neighbor would ever talk to us again.
Would that be kind of nice though? Do you have nice neighbors? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they walk their dogs. They're nice.
Okay, all right, that's good.
We are lucky for now.
So you have some
There's
now.
There's no asshole on the block. You never know.
Not yet. When I leave, there won't be any asshole on the block.
We're asshole free. It's an asshole free zone. Have I distracted? Are we on too far a tangent to ever get back?
No. Because actually, I want to. Can I comment on something real quick? Is that okay?
You are allowed to comment.
I feel like
there's no rules.
I feel like we're tangenting a whole bunch. But because you're talking about cremation and stuff. Stay on this death. I know you're like, God, Adam, can we steer away from this?
No. But I'm the one who pointed out that death is a theme in your film.
This is true. So it's your fault.
It's totally me.
It's your fault.
I could have let that go.
You could have.
Said I was like, let's talk about the
into
Grim Reaper.
That's right. Tim Burton did go to my school, so this all makes sense, right? So before Men Grieving, I became obsessed with this book called Consuming Grief. Okay, and it's kind of like an academic book, so it's not like the most fun read. But the person who wrote it, the woman, her name's Beth A. Conklin, I believe, and she was exploring tribes in the Amazon, and I believe it was specifically to see how they grieve. I might be wrong on this. The book is very dense, but there is some really incredible stuff in there if you can kind of get in there. I mean, she's a good writer, but it's kind of academic stuff. And she found that like certain tribes in the Amazon would engage in endocannibalism, not exocannibalism, right? So that they would eat their own only when they would die as a way to. It's so fascinating to move on, to be able to move on from the grief
and complete the connection.
Yeah, complete a connection, and then also just do this thing where it's like as soon as you start eating something, it now takes on a different life. It's no longer your mom, your son, your daughter. It's food, even though it would make them sick and make them feel nasty. It was they'd constantly throw up. It wasn't healthy for them to eat these bodies. Because especially after they've been dead and they kind of have to wait for tribes to kind of come and witness this. But they would do it because it allowed them to move on, to know that, hey, this person is no longer alive, and us consuming parts of them. They wouldn't eat like the whole thing, but they'd eat parts, which sounds like to us like, whoa, that's like intense. It allowed them to disconnect and to move on quickly or quicker through the grieving process, right? And so as soon as, the white man came, right, we were horrified by this act of, that seems uncivilized, right? And they no longer are allowed to practice this cannibalism, right? And it's endocannibalism, something way different than like what's advertised as. And I'm not an expert in this. Who knows? Maybe some people are practicing exocannibalism, eating other folks, right? But this endocannibalism was part of the mourning process for these people. So when we kind of came and said, hey, you can't do that anymore, it's fascinating. She was there and was able to interview people that were from the before time when you could. And there's this amazing, amazing quote, and where she's interviewing someone, and they go, I miss the days when we could eat the bodies, because then I wouldn't be so sad. And it's like, whoa, that is just like, and it's so fascinating. It kind of informed Men Grieving to a degree, even though you're like, to what way? Because we have such a limited view in the Western world. Nah, I'm even going to say just in the United States of how someone should grieve, right? There's no like right way or wrong way to go about doing this thing, right? It's so fascinating that every culture, even person to person, is a different way of processing this kind of stuff, right? And that's what kind of near the climax of my film, what happens, it looks like one thing, but the consuming, near the end, this doesn't spoil anything for anyone that would see it. Men grieving, the two men consume each other's grief. There's an act of consumption between the two of them that looks like one thing. So the play has like, wow, what's going on here? But there's also another thing happening here, and it's such a fragile moment that it's broken instantly as soon as someone else comes into the room. These two men are sharing a moment of intimacy, if you will, to some degree. It sounds like very shit eyes, like, oh, this two guys fucking. No, but it really inspired this.
But yeah, but it's
that's the post credit.
No,
scene.
I do get what you're saying.
Yeah,
and I guess maybe I don't know. I'm sure there'd be some people who would say I'm too open-minded or whatever, but no, what you say, it's clearly all these traditions, what we think is normal is just encultured.
Yes.
And like I'm always reminded of whichever Douglas Adams book of Hitchhiker's Guide,
great books,
where they're the restaurant at the end of the universe.
Oh, that's like a second one.
When the cow comes to the table and they have a conversation with it, and the guy from Earth is like, I can't eat a cow I can't eat you now that I've met you. And the cow just goes, you'd rather eat a cow you never met? You'd rather eat a stranger? And it's like, culturally, it could be if every culture, if the cultures that dominated Earth were like, the best thing to do with a dead loved one is cook and eat them, and then their cellular energy enters you and becomes part of you, and they're with you forever, and you can just move on. Like if that were the norm, then the not eating people would be looked at as like, what are you doing?
That's
like,
crazy.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that endocannibalism, which I just learned today,
there you go,
is sure horrifying to small-minded people.
Sure,
well, you talk about judgy, but there, it does make sense. And it's just, I tried explaining to this guy, I keep mentioning the kid, but why do you think men have short hair and women have long hair? It's just culture. It could easily be the opposite.
100%.
And it just, somehow these traditions got locked in, and what we think is normal is just taught.
100%. So it's just wild, right? I don't know. It's a weird. I know we went on this weird. It's a related tangent, but I thought that was such a wild story because I had such a perception of that stuff.
And by the way, that tells me another thing about you as a creator and a creative person is that you do this weird thing called reading.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating?
So by reading these sources instead of just, but by the way. There's nothing wrong with a cinephile being a filmmaker.
Sure, yeah.
But when all the inspirations are from other movies, Tarantino does it pretty well. But a lot of people, a lot of times, if you see, at the festival level, I get very uninterested in films that just remind me of films I've already seen. Because I'm like, you're making an indie film, you might as well do something we haven't seen before. You're not going to make a better,
Tarantino film.
Yeah, or Spielbergian film.
Yeah,
whatever. If you're going to odds are you should do something we haven't seen 100 times.
Right.
And,
or we strive for that. Yeah.
And when you do weird things like read books or talk to other people or learn about traditions and religions and stuff, then the work is informed by something, and you get something that hasn't been submitted 1,000 times and seen 1,000 times.
Or at least it's in a different container to a degree. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to sit here and say this is Men Grieving.
There's never been a new story.
Thing.
Of course there's always something. But you can tell when a creative person exposes themselves to more.
Yeah.
That's all. And
there's something I think worth. Yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like it is like that thing where it's like I would encourage, like I had to encourage myself to this, to kind of go out and, because I do watch tons of films, right? But I also have to realize there's so much to be offered just by, this sounds so lame, just going on a walk, going to the gym, listening to a conversation. Like once you're like on track with a story or something that you're wanting to pursue, it's wild how like the things start popping up in your life. Again, like overhearing that conversation at the gym of those guys. Like I was in the process of writing Men Grieving, and these two awkward older men have that conversation. And it's like, this is would I have been listening to this if I wasn't working on this? You know what I mean? Like, I think once you start opening yourself up to different avenues to receive like information, because I woke up from this sounds insane, Jeff. I swear to God, this happened. I woke up from a dream. I'd never dream. I usually just like black out, right? When I sleep. I woke up from a dream and I had this, I couldn't remember anything. All I could remember was someone was saying something about consuming grief. I'm like, wow, I've never heard that before. Typed into Google, found that book, started reading that book. Like, it's just like, I think once you're like in it with a story or you feel like there's something there and you're like writing and you're on track with something, things will start popping up. I mean, like, that's insane to sit here and say dreaming it and then finding a book.
I could go the practical route and say, once you're thinking along some terms, then you start noticing more.
Yes. Yeah.
You start noticing more.
Yeah.
Or I could joke that, well, we're in a simulation that was programmed by someone a little lazy. And so, you start seeing too many of the same car and you're like, okay, so I hit the part of the code that like is reusing things.
Yeah. That's probably what happened for me more so.
This is, I don't know. I joke too much about the simulation thing. It's getting old, but
I support it. We don't know. We can neither confirm nor deny,
and it doesn't change anything.
It doesn't actually. So it's like irrelevant.
If the creator of the universe did so by typing on a keyboard, and then hitting enter, and the Big Bang happened, I don't know. I don't have a problem with this.
So this is where we start talking about the Matrix, 1 through 3. Oh, actually, the 4th as well.
Oh, I didn't get through the 4th.
You didn't get through it. You didn't like Sabebe?
I don't know.
Sabebe was just the weird creature that Keanu Reeves touches his head next to.
I can't remember.
Sabebe.
I was in shock I couldn't get through it because I normally can just like do it, but
you hate it.
Well, now we're talking about other films.
I know. I'm so sorry.
I'm going to jump on this to say that we have to stop just so that we can get to your 4 questions answered.
Got it.
And talk about other films.
Got it. It sounds like Passover now. The 4 questions or whatever. Right?
You get it. You get it. I know some people. Every once in a while, a Hebraic person notices the 4 questions thing. It wasn't intentional. It was actually it was born from. I have a friend who's a professional session drummer.
Oh, cool.
And so and he's also a gigantic tough man, and so he likes to have arguments. He likes to argue. He's a doorman.
Okay.
And doorman / drummer.
God, anyway, the toughest.
He always goes like, Neil Peart's the most overrated drummer of all time. Debate me. Like that's his idea of a Facebook post.
That is wild.
The Rolling Stones suck ass. Convince me I'm wrong. Or he just goes, he'll go, who's the most overrated band of all time?
Okay. I like that's a little more open. Yeah.
But that's why I have the overrated question in the list, because I'm like, I'm going to take James's questions and apply them to film. And I was going to put them at the end of the podcast, like James Lipton's ending.
Oh, yeah.
But then obviously I like shooting the shit too much.
I know.
And then it adds another half hour to the podcast. And then you're asking people, well, why don't you just sit down and listen to like... And then once you finish listening, let's add on another 20 minutes. So that's why we'll make it its own deal.
Once you hear Adam talk an hour about himself, God, let's find out what his 4 favorite movies.
Well, and let's go back in time to your earliest memory. No. So anyway.
It's like, oh God.
So I will, is there a social media website or anything people should check out?
Yeah. I honestly, the Instagram, it's at Big Duck Pics. Pics is PIX.
Yeah.
That's really it. All obviously one word. That's where I'm like kind of posting updates, what's going on, what's happening with the movies and stuff. Sherman Oaks is on there. I posted something a while ago.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh no. I mean, I
know there's someone there.
I was going to sarcastically say. I mean, you do post from other festivals, but that's forgiven.
It's not exclusively just Sherman Oaks.
I mean, when there are 12,000 festivals in the world, according to Film Freeway,
it's insane.
Like I'm aware that people will cheat.
Yeah,
but I guess it's really not cheating.
I just have a lot of partners when it comes to film festivals.
if I, I would need to win the lottery and start, 1,000 festivals in 1,000 different cities so that people could cover the whole earth.
Why don't you just do that?
I'll buy a lottery ticket today. I don't buy the tickets is the problem. It is, by the way, sad that, it's funny. I have been talking to people. People have always the intention of Film Invasion Los Angeles was to have Film Invasion San Francisco, Film Invasion this, Film Invasion that.
Oh, that makes sense. I like
And
that.
there was a gentleman who was interested in doing Film Invasion London, but I'm still emails have been exchanged.
Okay, that's good.
Which means it probably won't happen, but maybe.
It's like his first response was, "Wait, who's this? What's going on?" You're like,
Actually, it was one of your ancestors, a Frenchman. Someone who lives in France met someone in London and said, "Hey, I want to introduce you to this London guy because he kind of feels like the British Jeff."
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
What is the British Jeff like? Does he just have a British accent?
Horrible person.
He's just a piece of shit.
Everyone hates him. Everyone hates him like me. It's just like, would you shut the fuck up and stop interrupting people? All right.
Hey, you were reading my mind then. I'm just kidding.
I know.
Absolutely not.
At least when I interrupt, I say, I hate doing it, but I got to interrupt. At this point, I got to interrupt
please.
and get us out of here.
Yeah, I know.
I will name, well, first of all, people should watch. They should rush out to film festivals. They should follow your Instagram and see Men Grieving on a big screen.
Yeah.
Wherever you go.
Yes. Yeah. It's going to be screening at the end of October in LA.
End of October in LA?
Yeah. So just go on my thing and you'll see. I don't want to promote another festival on this podcast. Not happening. But I'll promote my Instagram.
I don't know. You want to say name it? Who's at the end of October?
New Filmmakers Los Angeles. It's going to be screening. Yeah.
Is that one downtown or something?
Yeah, it's South Park Center, which I don't know. I've never been there.
Is that? I don't know that because there's that Regal near Staples.
Yes,
that has places. Is that called South Park Center now?
No, I think that's something else. I don't know what.
There's so many.
There's so many things. But New Filmmakers LA. It's going to be 21st of October, I believe. And I'll be coming back. I have a nice little thing. I'm going to be at the Eastern Oregon Film Festival 2 days right before then, and I'm going to fly up there, fly down.
I am admittedly envious of the small town, sort of off the beaten path festivals, because I feel like
they're kind of cool.
Those communities support their festivals.
Eastern Oregon is like when you're in the know of film festivals, and like for indie film festival, is like it's like Jim Cummings, like Thunder Road guy. Do you know that director? Swears by like the Eastern Oregon Film Festival, and they're like they have their own. They have all these like weird, cool things lined up. The community all comes out to support, but it's like this. It is it's a small town. You know, it's not LA.
It's
right?
so different.
Yeah,
I know.
But I'm giving you a compliment. Sherman Oaks feels like a small town. I think I said that in my review.
Maybe, I think it's even in our.
I'm being serious.
It might be in our Film Freeway description, something along the lines of like, a neighborhood festival in a big city.
It feels like that because that's not me because I'm here saying it, but it truly does. And those are the ones that I feel like for someone like me, because I like connecting with the people there, right? Or at least trying to. I want to talk. I want to see like who's programming this. Like I love to chat with folks. As you can see, I've been talking for fucking hours on this thing. But it is just the small town festivals are the ones where you actually get to make like real, genuine connections with people, as opposed to like sometimes the bigger, glitzier ones or whatever. Not to throw shade at them, but then you're just kind of treated like
it's a different vibe. Yeah, you're treated like a cattle, and you're brought in and brought out, and you don't you don't bond.
It's cool to get in, but like
the podcast I recorded before this one or two before this. From 22, Sherman Oaks 2022, just like you.
Yeah.
But their next project, they're collaborating with a cinematographer they met in their block.
Oh, that's awesome. See that?
Actually, not their block. They just went to that block and saw it.
See, that's the best, right? Was that Sherman Oaks?
Is that Sherman Oaks Film Festival?
And it wouldn't, because the festival is a big deal, I think, right? But like, if you were to, I guess like, plan out the festival in a different way, it wouldn't feel, you know what I mean? You make it all feels so intentional. You give the filmmakers, like it's for filmmakers, like it's for like you're a champion of filmmakers.
It's geared towards that, and it's geared towards, and when you have a nice longer Q&A, then people have something to come up and talk to you about afterwards. Like, whereas otherwise it's just like, hey, I liked your film. Like, if you even know who the director was at the film you just saw.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's something really special that you give everyone the time. Because, like, it makes me immediately... I like everybody, like, that's there. But, like, in my block, I immediately like everyone even more. Because I'm like, oh, my God, these people are, like, so funny, like you just get to see their personality as like a
Yeah.
I know it's so great how you do it. So
And it's nice because we just care about quality. So Lord knows I won't bother asking you about the whole experience of when you go to a festival and you're in a block and like there's shitty films in your block.
Oh, man.
And it's like, it's a gut punch.
it kind of sucks.
Because it's like, well, if they thought that was good,
Then like what
then do I pull these laurels off? Like,
yeah, no, like it's like a thing, man, where it's like it's rough, but it never once felt like that. And I plan on going to more. I only went to my block for last year's. That's because I was going to be out of town literally the next day. So I plan on going. I'm going to try to go every day. I went another one.
It is. I stand by it. You wouldn't see a bad film.
You wouldn't be doing it if you'd.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, so I'm like, of course, I want to. Because I was able to do that with this Summer Shorts Festival up in New Paltz, New York. When it was able to go every day, it was the best, absolute best to do.
All right, well, the thing I didn't let myself say while we were recording, but I'll just say it is... No, I'll say it after we stop.
Are you sure?
All right. Yeah. I'll share it. It's just a dream of mine.
Okay. But I'm going to make sure
I'm not going to do anything to happen. Oh, no.
Every day, because I had such a great... it was so much fun that I'm really excited.
It is good people, good films.
Yeah. Whether Men Grieving's in seriously, this is like, I'm not even... Like, Sherman Oaks, it is so good, and I know Men Grieving's an acquired taste, so that's why I'm like, even if it's not in there, I'm going to go support.
I honestly
don't even.
We got an overwhelming number of films this year. It's crazy.
I know.
But anyhow,
I'm not even. That's Jeff
saying. You got the programmer in your back pocket, so
true.
if I got to put my finger on the scale. But anyway,
it's like that's Jeff saying it's not in.
No, far from it. That's not what I said. Anyhow, 20 minutes ago, I got Adam to share at Big Duck Pics.
Oh, yeah.
Big Duck PIX.
Yes.
On Instagram if you want to follow him. And I just bring it up again so I can spiel off all the stuff that people should do. First of all, thank you, Adam.
Yes,
thank you, everyone, for listening. If you're listening to this, please like and subscribe to the podcast. Maybe even write a review somewhere.
Hell yeah.
I don't know. Why not? And if you want to learn more about this podcast, go to discoverindiefilm.com. It's at DIF Wins on social media, everywhere. And by the way, there's a TV series born out of this podcast because I kept talking to filmmakers, and everyone who made a feature was on streaming, and everyone who made a short was on YouTube with like 10 billion other videos. So on Amazon Prime Video, if you go to a Prime Video on a nice big-ass TV, you can type in Discover Indie Film. It auto-completes pretty quickly. And there are currently 7 seasons. Each one is 10 episodes, half-hour-ish episodes of, normally 2 to 4 shorts. Sometimes there's 1 40-minute short. Sometimes there's 4 10-minute shorts, whatever. But
incredible.
So that's a TV series of short films handpicked from the festival circuit. So please support it. It used to be included with Prime, and we were up to 10,000 unique viewers a week. And then Amazon did what's called the encourage, and we ended up 99 cents an episode, $7.99 a season. And so less viewers that way, but I have to say, when was the last time you spent $8 to watch 24 short films? Like it's not a bad way to spend $8. Like you could have a coffee and a croissant, or you could support 20+ indie filmmakers.
I support. I like that. And you're picking these films, yes?
Picking the films, they're going to be good. The funny thing is, I'm picking all the films, and then I handed season 8 off to a wonderful programmer from a dance film festival who had me be a guest curator, a dance film festival in England. And I said, "Oh my God, these dance films are gorgeous. Do you want to do an all dance season of Discover Indie Film?" She said, "Yes." We put it together, we uploaded it, and Amazon said, "We're going to pass." They rejected it. I guess 10 episodes of wordless dance films.
They have a say in what you're.
Well, I guess they have a say. They have a say. I know. But I thought like by season 8, they pretty much let me do anything I wanted. So
that's because I would think that'd be cool.
The dance films are so fucking good. So the dance films are going to have to end up on TVHi, which was the last thing I mentioned. Boom. Next thing I mentioned, Adam has said so many kind words about Sherman Oaks Film Festival. We hold it every November 29th, 2023. If you want to come check it out, we're at the beautiful cinemas in Glendale, California.
It's going to be incredible.
And learn more at ShermanOaksFF.com, at ShermanOaksFF on social media. It does have a sister festival that we hold every June, Film Invasion Los Angeles. As I mentioned, the random things up there. You can learn more about that if you go to FilmInvasionLA.com, and it's at FilmInvasionLA on social media. I think I mentioned TVHi well enough in the intro. Just go to watchTVHi.com. Kick that shit. And we even have stand-up comedy on there now and some other stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, because who doesn't like watching stand-ups? And we're going to start doing our own, I think, stand-up shows with undiscovered comics and then putting their bits on.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh man, look at you! You're like, you're doing this whole. You're succeeding.
I'm succeeding at. I'm trying to keep my head above water.
You're doing it. I gotta. You're barely choking on some water right now, but you're all right.
I'm underwater, but I do have a straw.
Yeah, it's a bendy straw.
The swizzle stick is above the. But I'm like, I just gotta get it. Well, anyway. Adam Peltier, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone should check out your work. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, guys.